Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Lovely, beautiful summer's morning here in Port Shepstone, South Africa. We're continuing in our series of devotions looking at the book of Luke chapter 10. It's a story of Mary and Martha, well-known story that we're drawing out the distinction between workers and worshippers, and I hope that you'll find that there's beauty in both of them. But today, for Jesus in the story, the emphasis is most definitely on worship. Let me read that story to you again, and I hope that we can find some more truths in it. It says, verse 38 of chapter 10, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet. That's a good place to sit, listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord replied, you are worried and upset about many things. On many of us like that today. But one thing is necessary. Maybe you're worried and upset about a whole bunch of things in your life. Well, there's one thing, people, that is necessary. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. Mary had found a distinctly wonderful place to be. She found herself sitting at the feet of Jesus. Now, in the last week, we had a look at what that position meant, sitting at the feet of Jesus. It was obviously a place of submission. Culturally, that's where you sat when you sat at the feet of somebody like Jesus. It was a place of great faith where we can relax on the things that are going on around us, and we can trust God for all those different things. It was a place of great faith that while I'm worshiping and listening and being with Jesus, the work can wait, because by faith we know that it's going to happen anyway. And we look today, I want to tell you that this posture of faith is the posture of listening. It says there, she sat at his feet and she listened to Jesus. And you say, what's so interesting about that? I find it incredibly interesting, because as a preacher, I often have to speak to people who hear what I have to say, but I know they're not listening. They're not listening. You see, how many of us husbands have had this criticism from our wife? You hear us, but you're just not listening to me. And that's what this pose of sitting at the feet of Jesus and worshiping is all about. It's not just about hearing the words, it's about listening to the words behind the words. And so when we look at this beautiful pose today, I want us to apply it into our own lives. Now, there are distinct differences between hearers and listeners. You see, hearers are people who just hear the word. Listeners are distinct because they respond to that word. Let me give you an example. In the book of 1 Samuel, we have the story of Samuel as a little child, and he hears his name being called at night. And so he gets up, he thought it was the high priest, it was Eli that was calling him, and he got up and he went through and he said, did you call me? And then I said, no, I didn't call you. He said, go back to bed. 3 times this happened. He heard the voice. And then Eli said to him, say to this voice, when you hear the voice again, speak, because I am now listening. And I thought about that in the context of many of our lives. You know, we hear sermons, we hear God speaking to us through the word, but are we really listening? Because we have to hear the voice of God behind that which sometimes is obvious. Hearing is obvious. Physically, we have 2 ears that hear. But in our minds and in our hearts, are we really listening to what God is saying? Now, the difference between a hearer and a listener, we said, is response. A listener is he or she who responds to what they hear. That's the distinction between hearing and listening. And Samuel, when he was told by Eli, you hear your name being called, next time you hear it, say, speak, because your servant is now listening. There are many things in our lives, guys, that God is speaking to us with, and we hear him. Maybe it's your circumstances. Maybe they're not that great, or maybe they are fantastic. You know, God is speaking behind the circumstances. I hope you're listening. God is talking to you through some of the crises, some of the lessons that you learn in your life. He is speaking, and I know that you hear him because it's loud and clear. But are you really listening? And the distinct difference between a hearer and a listener is somebody who responds. So today, as you hear his voice, the Bible says, do not harden your hearts as those that were in the wilderness. Learn what it means, not just to hear, but to listen. I'm going to continue this tomorrow, but I hope you have a fantastic day, you people, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.